After a slow start, difficult middle and calamitous end to their Premier League season, there is a glimmer of hope for both Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United. With a guaranteed spot in the 2025-26 UEFA Champions League still to play for, this remains the only chance of salvaging their season. Hello and welcome to Soccer Betting News. I'm your host Desh, and joining me in studio is the lockdown spectator himself, Keba. Mothoagae.
Thanks for hosting me, Desh. Appreciate it.
Sure. Keba, Man United are currently on a 13-game unbeaten streak in the UEFA Europa League. It remains their longest undefeated streak in Europe across all competitions. Why does Europe bring out the best Man United?
Because it's their safe space. They have been awful in the league. You knew things were going south, ironically, when they got slapped by Spurs at Old Trafford. It was such an easy loss. And a few weeks later, or a few weeks earlier, Liverpool had also come and run them out of their own stadium. So, look, they had to perform somewhere, and I guess they were allowed to build a rhythm in Europa League, because now that you've got a new format, the league format to cup competition in Europe, it allowed them to at least play teams that are a little bit different to what they have to deal with in the Premiership. It's harder. Premiership, far better teams, far better players, and I guess it allowed them to build rhythm to such an extent that they're the form team in European football right now.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying, that domestic break from the action in the Premier League gave them a bit of respite.
Yeah, it has. Look, like I said, there was a point that I said that, you know, the teams in England are better. They seem to... Remember, you just set up against United, you just set up, wait, expect them to miss, and then you know that there's a hole at the back that starts with the goalkeeper himself. It's a freeway down the wings, midfield is all over the place, because as Amram is trying to find his combinations, what has worked in the Portuguese league has not quite transferred to England, but it's working in Europe. It's working in continental football.
I see. Well, Man United have flexed their muscles in European competition ahead of the UEFA Europa League Final. They are the tournament's top scorers with 35 goals to their name. Even Harry Maguire has been getting in on the score sheet.
Well, the thing is, if there's no defense, then what stops you from going to score? You have to shoot teams out. I've seen Liverpool do something similar, where you remember just before they took off as one of the best teams on the planet, if not the best team, it used to rain goals at the back, so they understood, hey, why not just go all out on attack? Like I said, the teams that they play allow them to actually play football as opposed to what you encounter locally in the Premiership. So Harry Maguire, I mean, that sensational winner against Lyon, that's going to stick long in them. It's probably the most iconic moment of the entire campaign thus far.
Yeah, it's been incredible. But, you know, even Bruno Fernandes has been playing out of his socks. If I'm not mistaken, he's got 7 European goals to his name this season, making him the club's top scorer in the league.
Ironically, seeing how poorly they've performed in the league, he could be in the Premiership team of the season. They've even been wild suggestions that he could be the player of the season in the league, but, you know, that's Mo Salah. He has to be the player of the Europa League. I can't think of anybody who has dragged his team forward like Bruno has done. He has been the standout player in the banter era for Manchester United. He has been the signing of this decade for United.
All right. Well, you know, speaking of the banter era, Ange Postecoglou is 90 minutes away from one of the coldest quotes in modern football history. I mean, to say he was going to win something in his second season, and now we're 90 minutes away from that.
That is incredible. There's so many narratives and undercurrents and subplots to this game. And the fact that Spurs could pull it off in Europe, just to remind Arsenal fans that they haven't won a European trophy in many years. And to watch Spurs or United take home this trophy, on top of having watched City probably going to win the FA Cup, and then watching Liverpool, the Liverpool team that you expected to be to the title, win. It's the narratives. Hence why I'm like that. The banter if Spurs win is just so that I can laugh at Arsenal fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit of an achievement when you look at this Tottenham Hotspur squad, especially when you compare to the previous ones, the ones where Harry Kane was firing goals for them left, right, and centre. The likes of Son was firing across all cylinders. Even Dele Alli, look at.
When you think about it, that is a loss of firepower. That is a serious loss of firepower. Harry Kane is gone with all the goals. And then but the thing is, what has followed them, that infamous term that Sir Alex once said, it's only Spurs. And they've got these habits, bad Spursian habits. And as Jose Mourinho said, who won the Europa League with United and was expected to at least do something with Spurs in the similar competition, football heritage. Yeah. It's just, it makes sense that these two teams who are 15th and 16th respectively are in the Europa League final.
Gosh, you couldn't have summed it up any better over there. I actually want to discuss the managers, though. I mean, you mentioned Mourinho, but the likes of Poch has been there for seasons.
Yeah.
Antonio Conte as well, and then you look at Nuno in between all of that. How does Ange's system fit in there?
Like I said, they don't seem to. I know injuries have been a problem, form has been an issue, and recruitment. So, system, as you say, system is as good as the players and their drive. So it's not that he's done anything wrong except having plummeted down the log table. But perhaps if they win this game in Bilbao, it might kickstart something. His job is safe, I would like to believe. Even if he loses that final, I don't think Spurs will be stupid enough, Daniel Levy will be stupid enough to let him go. It goes to show that they've got some kind of structure when it comes to continental football. It's just making it translate into league form. But then again, I'm going to keep hitting this nail on the top of its head. English football is not a joke. The Premier League is not a joke.
All right, well, allow me to flip the script then. Does Man United fire Ruben Amram if he doesn't win the Europa League?
If they fire him, I'm telling you right now, United fans are going to burn down Old Trafford. They're going to burn down Old Trafford. There is not a chance that you appoint somebody in October or November to allow him to, and then fire him after the team bottoms out. This is probably the most important appointment that they've made. Allow him at least 6 months or 7 months to figure out his story instead of the old fire somebody in the middle of the season, caretaker, bring in somebody new at the end of the season, pre-season. United players deliver in the off season, then it's the same cycle. Now that he's had time to at least assess what he's dealing with, communicate with the technical management as well as the board itself. Yeah. There's no ways. And I've noticed chatter on Sporting Lisbon chatter is that this is how it started. When he had to turn around Lisbon as they watched Porto running away with the league on a regular basis up until he found his way. This is what they did with, this is what happened with Klopp. Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool fans will know that there were some embarrassing losses along the way up until around 2018 when they started making the Champions League finals. There was a 6-1 against Stoke somewhere there. They used to get slapped, and they also got beaten by, I don't know who it was, where they lost a Europa League, I think it was Sevilla, a Europa League final as well. So you've got to start somewhere. He also has said, and he was speaking on behalf of a lot of people when he said this is the worst Manchester United team ever. It's not the worst Manchester United team ever, but it's the worst Manchester United team in more than a generation. Yeah, that's some point that you've just made over there. I'm sure conversations between Amram and the Man United board have already begun regarding the upcoming transfer window. Yes. I want you to name drop. Tell me, is he bringing somebody from Sporting, somebody from the league itself? It only makes sense that he's going to identify certain players from Porto to fit into, not Porto, Lisbon, to fit into his system. And we all know that there was one Cristiano Ronaldo de Aveiro who arrived in 2003 from this team called Lisbon. He's going to identify. And then in the Premier League itself, because now the competition is so high, it's going to be another Man United tax thing where, you want a certain player who will weaken us, especially now that seeing that you are a bottom half team. If Man United goes and gets a player from West Ham or from Aston Villa, you're going to tax them because your weakness. There's so many good teams in England, like the top 10, very good. If you have to give up a player to United, it doesn't matter who they get. They're going to have to pay up. So it's just going to be about, I think, also infusion of the youngsters, because now United is in a situation where youngsters have been leveled up quicker than should have happened. Your Kobe Mainus and Masses and so on. So it's going to be an interesting infusion of youth within the club, as well as who you can take to weaken your opposition, as well as identifying the future on the continent itself.
Yeah, well, those Premier League players are going to be absolutely vital to their performance next season. I mean, out of Ruben Amram's 26 games at Man United in the Premier League, he's won only 6 of them. I mean, the writing was on the wall.
It is frustrating to watch a team. You know, you've got that momentum tracker and that predictor at the beginning of Premier League games. I have never seen anything where Manchester United goes to play Brentford, and Brentford is favoured to win, and Crystal Palace and West Ham is. It goes to show where United is at the moment. They are cheeks. I won't say the other term though, because we don't want to be offensive on such a family platform. But look, 6 out of 26. That's a fail season. And I remember at the office we mentioned how in other seasons that could have been relegation. This is relegation. Thankfully, Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton were quite horrible. So, yeah, it could have been, or could have those teams also delivered.
Yeah. Well, you know, speaking about those league performances, then it was Tottenham Hotspur who did a league double over Man United. United failed to land a glove on Tottenham, losing 3-0 on home soil before a 1-0 away lose.
Well, what sticks out to me is how easy the win at Old Trafford was for Spurs. It's happened a lot of time in the banter era but it was when the writing was on the wall for Ten Hag that you are gone. Spurs were so good that day. You thought maybe it could kickstart their season, and they just went and fell off a cliff. The League Cup match was an interesting one because United had their chances. They went 3-1 down, but there was a foul. There was a very important foul on Bayindir. If VAR was allowed in League Cup, that goal would have been scratched off, and you never know what could have happened there. United fought. United fought valiantly in that game. And then the game in the league at the same stadium, at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, there was that goal in the 13th minute. I don't know, was it Maddison?
Might have been Maddison.
Maddison. He scored and you're like, oh, normal service has resumed. And then suddenly United performed. Because one thing a lot of people have forgotten is United has been performing against the big teams in the league. Okay, yes, they got beaten 3-0 by Liverpool and they got beaten 3-0 by Spurs. But they've fought. They've gone. But it's just the other teams that are set up to frustrate United that have taken the points from them.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not mistaken, James Maddison is going to play no part in the UEFA Europa League Final as he suffers from injury. Is someone going to take his place, the like of Kulusevski, possibly even Dom Solanke is going to take this game by the scruff of the neck for Spurs?
I'm thinking Dom Solanke will be vital in this game because now, hey, look, that United defense is a shambles. They've got no goalkeeper as well. Lenny Yoro is injured, which now obviously means that Victor Lindelof, who is not highly regarded, it's ironically the same thing happened in 2021, the final against the Yellow Submarine, Villarreal. Harry Maguire, when he was performing then, got injured. Maguire had to sit out, Lindelof had to play, and you could sense that United struggled without him. Solanke will fancy himself. I think it's Spurs. You never know what they're going to serve up. He'll fancy themselves against this defense. It should be an interesting, for the neutral, El Farcico, as we like to call it, or El Clownico. It looks like it's going to be goals at both ends.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. Well, Tottenham Hotspur have been churning out results in European competition this season. They've won 9 of their 13 league outings. It remains their most European league wins across all European competitions, really. They would pull off the original smash and grab by qualifying into the Champions League for having finished. I think they'll finish 15th or 16th because, as you can tell, the clown show between them and United continues to see who will finish below the other. It has been very productive, but it is a far cry from those days when they were going to Man City and winning in the semi-finals.
going to Ajax and winning in the quarterfinals, beating Real Madrid in the Champions. There was a time, it's like, what happened? I don't know how it is that that promising period in their history suddenly has dissipated. Europa League is an opportunity to say you've got silverware. They'll be targeting silverware more than Champions League because Cup, Europa League, that's it. For United shouldn't be. United normally is expected, hey, Champions of England, semi-finals of the Champions League. Those days are over now. For Spurs, they've dreamt of moments like this. I don't think they won a trophy since 2008, the League Cup in 2008. So, hey.
It's been a long time coming for them. Well, let me ask you this. Is Ruben Amram's Man United going to run right? Or is Ange Postecoglou going to go down in Spurs folklore?
Jose Mourinho once said, this is a football heritage, football heritage. And I think because I'm using him as an example, because he's coached both teams, football heritage has a way of manifesting. I suspect that Spurs are going to Spurs, and United have got this aura, because I hate that damn term, but it's just been used. They've got this aura about them in Europe where they could beat anybody in continental football right now. And I think they might be just too strong for Spurs. At the same time, Ange, hey, look, it's an opportunity to make a name for yourself forever. Have a statue built of you around. That won't happen. But look, the narrative is what is going to make this game the most watched of all the three finals. Because, hey, it's two English teams. It's Spurs, very famous team. Manchester United, the most supported team on the planet. I think it will be the most intriguing of all the finals.
Yeah. Who's going to take it?
Manchester United 3, Spurs 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Keba, that's where we're going to leave it for today. Football fans, you heard it right here from the lockdown spectator himself, calling a win for Man United. Do let us know in the comments if you agree with his predictions. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to like if you enjoyed this. From all of us in the studio, thanks and goodbye. For more soccer betting tips and previews, get the latest edition of Soccer Betting News for only 10 Rand at your nearest Hollywood Bets branch or newsagent.